The market was silent now. The auction was over. The cages stood open, doors swinging on rusty hinges. The chains on the ground were still warm from bodies that had once filled them. Every creature, every prisoner, had been taken away. Buyers had left with their new property. The hall smelled of sweat, iron, and old fear. But one cage was not empty. In the far corner, behind the shadow of broken lamps, a young alien woman sat on the floor. Her skin shimmered faintly, like silver dust under the weak light. Her eyes were dull, almost lifeless, as if she had already accepted that this cage was her grave. She had been shown to the crowd many times. She had been pulled forward, forced to stand while the auctioneer shouted her name, her bloodline, her strange abilities. But no one had raised a hand to buy her. No one had spent a single coin. Too strange, one alien merchant had whispered. Too dangerous, another had hissed. Not worth the risk, the crowd had agreed. So now she sat alone while the auctioneer counted his coins and cursed under his breath. Waste of space, he spat, slamming his ledger shut. Not even worth half a drink. The last buyers left. Heavy boots echoed, then faded. One by one, the guards walked out, laughing and talking about how they would spend their pay. Soon the great hall was almost empty. Only the sound of buzzing. Lamps and dripping pipes remained. The alien girl lowered her head. Her silver hair fell across her face. Her hands trembled. She thought, "This is the end. I was not even worth buying." Then she heard it. A voice. Soft. Calm. Different. "I'll take her." The words did not come from the auctioneer. They did not come from the guards. The voice was human. The auctioneer froze. He turned, confused. From the shadows near the back, a man stepped forward. His boots were quiet, his coat dark and simple. He looked plain, almost fragile compared to the towering alien traders who had filled the hall. His hair was unremarkable, his face lined by travel and age. But his eyes were sharp. The alien girl felt them before she even looked up. A strange heat touched her chest, like fire waking in her veins. She raised her head slowly, just enough to see him. A human. Her heart beat faster. Humans were rare here. Most were weak, poor, and ignored by the stronger species. What was one doing in a place like this? Why was he staring at her? "You'll take her?" the auctioneer asked, his voice dripping with disbelief. "You? Do you have coin, stranger? She is not cheap, even if no one wants her." The human stepped closer. The sound of his boots filled the silence like thunder. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small bag. The bag clinked when it landed on the wooden table. The auctioneer opened it and his eyes widened. The coins inside glowed faintly blue, each one carved with marks from a language long dead. The auctioneer swallowed hard. "This currency," he muttered. He looked at the human, then back at the coins. He hesitated only a moment before greed. "One." He grabbed the bag, nodded quickly, and unlocked the cage. The alien girl did not move. She stayed on the floor, staring. The cage door creaked open. The human crouched low and held out his hand. His voice was soft, almost kind. "You are free now," he whispered. The words hit her harder than any chain ever had. Free? She had never been free. From birth to now, she had been hunted, sold, displayed. The word sounded like a lie. She looked at his hand. His skin was rough, scarred, but his fingers were steady. His eyes were steady, too. She did not take his hand. She only stared. The human did not force her. He only waited. For a long moment, the silence between them was heavier than the iron bars that had caged her. Finally, trembling, she placed her hand in his. Warmth spread through her. Strange warmth. It was not just the warmth of his skin. It was something deeper. For the first time in her life, she felt that someone was not holding her as property, but as something alive. Something real. The auctioneer laughed nervously. "She's yours now, take her and go." But don't come back when she kills you in your sleep. Dangerous thing, that one." The human said nothing. He only stood, helping the girl rise to her feet. The hall was almost empty. The air smelled of rust and fear. The human led her out step by slow step. Behind them, the auctioneer counted his glowing coins again, his greedy smile wide. But the girl's eyes were not on the auctioneer anymore. They were locked on the human's back as he guided her forward. Why, she thought, why did he take me? Why me, when no one else wanted me? The answer did not come. Only silence. Outside, the city waited. Neon lights burning in the fog. Shadows, moving in every corner, eyes watching from the alleys. The human glanced at her once, and in that glance was a promise, though she could not understand it yet. "Trust me," he whispered again, barely loud enough to hear. And she did not know why, but a part of her believed him. The streets outside the auction house were alive with noise. Vendors shouted from stalls, neon signs flickered in broken patterns, and shadows stretched long under the twin moons. The alien girl walked beside the human, her bare feet cold on the metal ground. Chains still hung loosely around her wrists, clinking softly with every step. He did not rush. His walk was calm, steady, yet every alien they passed looked at him with unease. Some turned their eyes away, others stepped back as though his presence was a warning. The girl noticed this. She whispered, her voice low, cracked from silence. "Who are you?" The human did not answer. His eyes scanned the street, watching, measuring. His hand stayed near the inside of his coat. Not on her, not pushing, not pulling, only ready. She frowned, unused to such silence. Buyers always spoke, mocked, threatened, or commanded. This one said nothing. That silence unsettled her more than chains. Finally, they stopped before a narrow passage, a dark alley glowing faintly with green light from dripping pipes. He stepped inside without a word. She hesitated. "This way," he said simply. His voice was calm, but not gentle. It carried a weight, a command born not from cruelty, but from certainty. She followed, because she had nowhere else to go. Inside the alley, 2 guards blocked their path. Their armor gleamed, their weapons heavy. The taller one growled. "No passage. Show papers." The human raised his head slowly, meeting their eyes. He did not reach for weapons. He did not argue. He only stared. The guards shifted uneasily. Their hands twitched on their rifles, then loosened as if some invisible pressure forced them down. The taller guard's eyes widened with sudden fear. He stepped aside without another word. The girl felt it like a wave in the air. Something, unseen, something sharp pressed against her skin when the human looked at the guards. It was not strength of muscle. It was not loudness of voice. It was something deeper, hidden. She whispered again. "What are you?" Still, he gave no answer. He only walked forward, and she had no choice but to follow. The alley opened into a small square, half in ruin. Broken statues lay across the ground, faces worn away by rain. A fire burned in a barrel where a few ragged traders warmed their hands. They looked up when the human entered, and again, eyes widened, spines straightened. None spoke. None dared. He led her to the edge of the square, where an abandoned building leaned against cracked walls. Its doors were half broken, its windows shattered. He stepped inside, guiding her to a corner where the air smelled less of smoke and more of dust. "Sit," he said at last, his first command to her. She obeyed. The room was dim. Moonlight cut through broken glass, painting sharp lines across the floor. Rats scurried in the shadows. She pulled her knees close, her chains rattling. Her eyes stayed fixed on him. He finally removed his coat. Beneath it was a simple shirt, worn by travel. No weapon belts, no armor. Nothing like the mercenaries she had seen. Yet his movements spoke of hidden power. He knelt near her, resting one arm on his knee. For the first time, he looked at her not as a prisoner, not as property, but as someone real. "You are safe," he said quietly. Safe. Another word she had never known. She almost laughed at the sound of it. Safe? In this city of hunters and thieves? In this galaxy where her kind were chased and sold? Impossible. "You bought me," she whispered bitterly. "That is not safe." His gaze did not move. "No, I freed you." She shook her head. Her chains were still on her wrists, her fear still heavy in her chest. Freedom was a word with no meaning to her. He reached into his pocket. A small tool glimmered in his hand. With a soft click, he pressed it to the lock of her chains. Sparks hissed. The metal fell to the ground, her arms shook. She touched her bare wrists, skin raw where iron had burned. For a moment, she could not breathe. He placed the tool away. "Now you are free." The words struck deeper this time. She wanted to believe them. Her eyes filled with something she had forgotten long ago. Tears. But suspicion burned alongside hope. She studied him with sharp eyes. "Why? Why me? What do you want?" For a long silence, he did not answer. The only sound was the wind pushing through broken glass. Finally, he said, "Because you are important." Her heart thudded. Important? She had been called many things, dangerous, cursed, worthless, but never important. She leaned forward, voice shaking. "You lie." "No," he said firmly. His eyes, cold yet honest, did not shift. "You are more important than you know. That is why I came." She felt her breath grow shallow. The weight of his words pressed on her chest. Important. Why would a human of all beings say this? Humans were weak, unwanted. Yet this one walked through guards, silenced crowds, and spoke as if he carried truth heavier than the stars. The fire in the square outside crackled. Voices whispered in the distance. But inside the broken room, there was only silence between them. She hugged her knees, torn between fear and the strange warmth his words brought. She did not trust him. Not yet. But some part of her, small, hidden, wanted to. The human finally leaned back, pulling his coat around him again. His voice was low, almost a warning. "Rest tonight, tomorrow we leave the city." She frowned. "Where?" He looked out the window to the streets where shadows moved like predators waiting. "Somewhere they cannot find you." She followed his gaze. The city felt full of eyes, claws, knives. Whoever they were, she knew he was right. Someone was hunting her. And for the first time, she wondered if this strange human, with his sharp eyes and quiet power, might be her only chance to survive. The night grew colder. Wind whistled through the broken windows of the ruined building. The alien girl sat awake, her knees pulled close, while the human rested with his back against the wall. He did not sleep like others. His eyes closed, but his breathing stayed sharp, measured like a predator pretending to rest. She could not stop watching him. Every line of his face looked ordinary, too ordinary, yet everything about him felt wrong. He had walked past armed guards without lifting a hand. He had stared them down and they had obeyed. Who was he? A sound broke her thoughts. Heavy boots, voices outside. The fire in the square had died, but the night had not swallowed the city. Though, Human opened his eyes at once. He had been waiting. "Stay close," he said quietly. The girl stiffened. Her heart raced. She heard the voices too now, harsh, cruel, growing nearer. They said she was sold here. A human bought her? Impossible. Search every corner. The girl's blood ran cold. They were looking for her. The human stood, pulling on his coat. He didn't look nervous, he didn't look worried at all. He only looked ready. He stepped to the door, but not fast enough. A shadow blocked the entrance. Then another. 4 figures in black armor entered the ruined hall, rifles raised. Their helmets glowed red under the moonlight. There she is, one hissed. And the human. Hand her over. The girl froze. Her chest tightened. Every part of her wanted to shrink back into the corner, vanish into the floor, but the human didn't move back. He stepped forward instead. His voice was calm. No. The soldiers aimed. The room filled with the sharp sound of charging rifles. The girl gasped, certain the next sound would be death, but it never came. The soldiers faltered. Their hands shook. Their eyes flickered behind their helmets, as if something pressed against their minds. One dropped his weapon with a cry, clutching his head. Another stumbled back, teeth grinding in fear. What are you doing? The leader growled, his voice breaking. The human did not answer. He only stared. The girl felt it again, that unseen pressure, heavy as iron, sharp as fire. It wrapped around the soldiers, squeezing their will. Their strength melted like ice. One by one, they dropped their weapons. Their knees hit the floor. The girl's heart thundered. She whispered, half to herself, half to him, "You are not human." But he said nothing. He turned his gaze away, breaking the invisible hold. The soldiers collapsed fully, groaning on the floor, too weak to rise. The human looked back at her. "We leave. Now." They ran into the streets. The night was alive with danger. Gangs moving in the alleys, searchlights sweeping the rooftops, engines roaring from patrol craft overhead. The girl struggled to keep up. Her legs were weak from years in chains, her lungs burning with every step. Still she ran. The human moved like water, silent and precise. He knew where to turn, where to stop, when to hide in shadow. It was as though he had walked these streets 1,000 times before. Behind them, shouts rose. The hunters had found the fallen soldiers. The chase began. "Faster," he said, his voice steady, not desperate. "They are closing in." The girl wanted to cry that she could not. Her body ached, her feet cut open on sharp metal, but the fire in his voice gave her no choice. She pushed forward. They reached a wide street lined with broken neon signs. Shops were closed, shutters pulled down, but eyes watched from every crack. The crowd of night dwellers saw them run, and whispers spread fast. "There, the girl. With the human. Stop them." Figures moved to block the path. Gangs with knives, merchants with iron rods, hunters with claws. The girl stumbled, back in terror. There were too many. But the human stepped forward. His voice cut the air like a blade. "Move." The crowd hesitated. Their eyes locked with his, and fear spread like a disease. Some growled, some hissed, but one by one they stepped aside. The human's presence was heavier than their greed, stronger than their anger. The girl followed, wide-eyed, her chest heaving. Every step beside him felt like stepping through a storm. Finally, they reached the edge of the city. Towers of metal gave way to dark wastelands, where broken ships lay half buried in dust. The air was colder, thinner. The human slowed at last. He looked behind them. Light still flickered in the distance. The hunt was not over. She collapsed to her knees, too weak to stand. Her body trembled. Her breath came in gasps. I cannot," she whispered. "Leave me. They will catch us. You will die." The human knelt before her. His eyes were not soft but firm, like stone carved by time. "No," he said. "You will not die here. I did not come this far to lose you." His words struck her harder than the cold wind. She wanted to ask why. She wanted to demand answers, but the strength in his voice left no room for doubt. He lifted her to her feet, almost carrying her. His grip was steady, unshakable. Behind them, the city roared, alive with hunters, soldiers, gangs, all searching for her. Ahead of them stretched the wasteland, silent, endless, dangerous in its own way. But for the first time, she felt a spark of something strange. Not hope. Not yet. Something smaller, quieter, trust. And though she did not understand why, she let him lead her into the dark. The wasteland stretched under 2 pale moons. Broken ships lay like skeletons, their metal bones half buried in the sand. The wind howled through empty hulls, singing a song of lost battles and forgotten worlds. The girl walked beside the human, her steps unsteady. Her bare feet sank into the cold dust, each step heavier than the last. She wanted to collapse, to sleep, to vanish into the ground. But his hand gripped her arm whenever she stumbled, steadying her without words. He seemed tireless. His boots crushed the sand in a rhythm that never slowed. His eyes fixed on the horizon as if he knew exactly where to go. At last, when the moons were high, he stopped near the remains of an ancient ship. Its ribs rose out of the ground like the bones of a giant beast. Inside, the shadows were deep and the wind quieter. "Rest," he said. She sank against a wall of rusted metal, breathing hard. The silence of the wasteland pressed around her. No shouts, no hunters, no cages, only emptiness. For the first time, the city was far behind. She looked at him as he dropped his coat to the floor and sat across from her. He pulled a small container from his pack, opening it to reveal stale bread and dried fruit. He placed it between them without a word. Her stomach twisted with hunger. She had been fed scraps at the auction house, nothing more. Still, she hesitated. "Eat," he said simply. She reached slowly, taking a piece. Her hands shook. The bread was dry, tasteless, but to her it was life. She ate fast, almost afraid it would vanish before her eyes. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. She caught him watching her, not with disgust, not with ownership, with something else. "What?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Nothing," he replied. His eyes shifted away. That answer unsettled her even more. For a while, silence ruled. The wind outside rose and fell, carrying sand across the broken ship. The human sat still, as though carved from stone. His calmness gnawed at her. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why did you save me?" He did not answer at once. His fingers traced the cracks in the rusted floor, his eyes far away. "I told you," he said at last. "Because you are important," she clenched her fists. "That is not an answer." He looked at her then. His eyes were sharp, too sharp. "It is the only answer I can give now." Her breath caught in frustration. "You speak in riddles. If I am important, tell me why. Tell me what you want from me." He leaned back against the wall, folding his arms. "What I want does not matter. What matters is what you are." She stared, confused and angry. She opened her mouth to demand more, but stopped. His eyes were not cruel. They carried weight, yes, but not the weight of a liar. She hated that. The night deepened. She tried to rest, but sleep would not come. Her mind spun with questions. Every glance at him made her chest tighten with both suspicion and strange safety. At last, unable to hold the silence, she whispered, "What is your name?" For a long moment she thought he would not answer. Then his voice came, quiet. "Call me Daniel." The name sounded strange on her tongue. Simple, human, nothing special. Yet the way he said it, like it was both truth and shield, made her wonder if it was his real name. She gave a bitter laugh. "Daniel. A small name for someone who makes soldiers kneel with a stare." He did not laugh. "Names are not power. What you carry inside is." Her smile faded. His words struck too close to something she could not name. She looked away, hugging her knees. As dawn broke, light painted the wasteland in colors of ash and gold. Daniel stood pulling on his coat again. "We move," he said. The girl groaned. Her body was sore, her legs weak, but his voice left no room for argument. She pushed herself up, glaring at him with tired eyes. As they stepped back into the sand, she whispered, half to herself, "One day I will know who you really are." He glanced at her, his face unreadable. "One day, you will know who you really are." Her steps faltered. His words echoed inside her, unsettling and heavy. She wanted to demand the meaning, but he was already moving, his gaze fixed on the horizon again. The wasteland stretched endless. Hours passed, They crossed dunes where metal bones lay buried, the remains of ships too ancient to name. She stumbled often, but each time his hand caught her before she fell. As the sun sank again, painting the sky in fire, they reached a cliff overlooking a valley of broken towers. At the center, a camp of scavengers burned bright with fires. Ships circled above like vultures. The girl's chest tightened. They are waiting. Yes, Daniel said. His voice carried no fear, only certainty. They will follow. Always. Until the truth comes. She looked at him, fear burning in her chest. What truth? He finally turned, his eyes locking on hers, the truth of what you are. The wind carried his words into the silence of the wasteland. She felt her knees weaken, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of his voice. She opened her mouth to ask again, but no words came. Her throat closed. For the first time she realized she was more afraid of his answer than of the hunters behind them. Night fell again over the wasteland. The broken towers below glowed with fires from the scavenger camp, their smoke rising like black fingers into the sky. From the cliff, the girl watched the lights flicker and fade in the wind. She hugged her knees, her body aching from the long walk. Daniel stood nearby, silent as always. His eyes scanned the valley, sharp, unblinking. He looked like a statue cut from shadow, too still for any normal man. The girl's thoughts churned like a storm. His words from earlier echoed in her chest. The truth of what you are. They gnawed at her, burning hotter than hunger, sharper than fear. Finally, she whispered, "What am I?" Daniel didn't move. He didn't answer. His silence was heavier than chains. She clenched her fists. "Tell me." At last he turned. The firelight below painted his face in orange and gold. His eyes, dark as the void, locked with hers. "You are the last of your kind," he said softly. The last flame of a fallen empire. Her breath caught. She shook her head hard. "No, my kind. We were nothing. Slaves. Traders said we were dangerous, but worthless. I am no one." Daniel stepped closer. His presence filled the air like a storm rolling in. "That is the lie they wanted you to believe. Your people were not weak. They were rulers. Once long ago they held worlds in their hands, until the galaxy turned against them." Her pulse hammered. Memories flickered in the corners of her mind. Broken pieces. Fire raining from the sky. Voices crying her name. Hands pulling her into the dark. "No," she whispered again. But her voice was weak now. "Yes," Daniel said firmly, "and you are their heir. That is why they hunt you. That is why they fear you. If the truth rises, their chains will break." Her knees trembled. She sank onto the cold ground. Images stabbed at her mind. Shattered visions of a throne made of crystal. Soldiers kneeling. Ships burning in the void. She pressed her hands to her skull as if to crush the memories. "Stop," she gasped. "Stop this." Daniel crouched in front of her. His voice softened, though his eyes stayed hard. "I cannot stop what is already inside you. You were born with it. Buried. Hidden. But the galaxy remembers. And so will you." A low hum filled her ears, faint at first, then louder. She looked up, thinking it was the wind, but no, it was her. Her skin shimmered faintly, silver light crawling across her arms, her chest, her face. She froze in terror. "What? What is happening?" Daniel didn't flinch. He only watched. "It is waking." The eye glow pulsed, spreading down to her fingertips. Her body shook, fear and power twisting together. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs would not move. In the valley below, scavengers looked up. Their shouts carried through the night. They had seen the light. Daniel rose to his feet, his voice sharp now. "They know. We must move." But she didn't move. She stared at her glowing hands, horror drowning her voice. "I don't want this. I don't want to be Whatever this is. Daniel grabbed her shoulders, steady and unyielding. Listen to me. You are not a curse. You are not a weapon for them. You are more than what they told you, but if you do not accept this, they will use you. Or kill you. Her chest heaved. She searched his face, desperate for lies, but his eyes carried only truth, heavy and merciless. Why, do you care? She whispered. Why me? Why not leave me to die in that cage? His grip tightened. Because I was sent to guard you. The words cut the air like a blade. She stared, wide-eyed. Guard me? By who? Daniel hesitated. For the first time, his mask cracked. Shadows of sorrow flickered across his face. By those who believed, your people would rise again, he said quietly. By those who saw what you would become. Her breath shook. Then, you knew me. Before the cage. Before the auction. I knew of you, he corrected. I knew you would be hunted. I knew I had to find you first. The glow across her skin dimmed, though faint sparks still danced on her fingertips. She pulled back from his grip, trembling. I don't understand any of this. I don't want to. You will, Daniel said. His voice carried no doubt. The choice is yours, but the truth cannot be buried forever. From below, shouts rose louder. Scavenger ships lifted into the air, their searchlights slicing across the valley. The glow from her body had betrayed them. Daniel turned, scanning the cliff edge. His face hardened. They are coming. The girl wrapped her arms around herself, fighting tears. I can't fight them. I can't fight anyone. He looked back at her, his gaze sharp and steady. You can. You just don't know it yet. The sky roared as the first ship rose higher, its engines screaming. Lights cut across the wasteland, sweeping closer to the cliff. Daniel pulled her to her feet. You must decide, he said. Run from what you are, or face it. She shook, caught between terror and the strange fire burning inside her. Her voice was barely a whisper. And if I face it? Then the galaxy will never be the same, Daniel said. The night trembled with engines and shouts. The air burned with the coming storm, and for the first time the girl felt the weight of her destiny pressing against her chest, heavy, endless, and terrifying. Engines roared above the wasteland. Searchlights swept across the cliff, slicing through the night. The scavenger ships circled like predators smelling blood. Below, voices rose in anger and greed. The girl is here. Don't let them escape. Bring her alive. The girl's knees trembled. Her skin still glimmered faintly, betraying her presence. She pressed her hands against her chest as if she could hide the light. They will find us, she whispered, fear choking her voice. Daniel stood tall at the cliff's edge, coat snapping in the wind. His eyes tracked the ships with cold precision. Yes, but we will move before they do. He pulled her forward, leading her down a narrow path carved into the rocks. Every step was sharp, steep, dangerous. The shouts behind them grew louder. The hunters were climbing, scrambling like wolves up the cliff. The girl's breath came fast, uneven. We cannot outrun them. Daniel's reply was steady, as if the storm behind them did not matter. We don't need to outrun them. Halfway, down the cliff, 3 scavengers leapt from the shadows. Their blades glimmered under the moons, their eyes red with greed. The girl stumbled back. She had no weapon, no strength left. Her heart screamed, "This is the end." But Daniel moved forward. One scavenger lunged with a blade. Daniel sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and snapped it with a crack that echoed against the rocks. The second swung high. Daniel's fist struck his chest, sending him flying into the cliff wall. The third hesitated, eyes wide, before Daniel's. Stare froze him in place. Leave, Daniel said. The scavenger dropped his blade and ran, howling into the night. The girl's eyes widened. You fight like no human. Daniel did not answer. He only motioned for her to keep moving. They reached the base of the cliff. The wasteland opened before them, flat and endless. But now the ships descended, searchlights burning hot, engines shaking the ground. Dust swirled around them. One ship landed ahead, blocking their path. Its doors hissed open, and armored hunters poured out, rifles ready. The girl froze, her body locked in terror. Daniel stepped in front of her. His voice was sharp, heavy. "Stay behind me." The hunters raised their weapons. "Give us the girl," one shouted. Daniel's eyes narrowed. No, the air shifted, heavy, unseen. The girl felt it again, that crushing pressure. The hunters faltered. Fingers shook on triggers. One dropped his rifle, gasping for air as if an invisible hand squeezed his throat. "Run!" Daniel commanded her, but she could not move. Her legs refused. She watched, frozen, as the hunters struggled under Daniel's stare. One broke free, firing blindly. The shot struck the ground near her feet, spraying dust and heat. She screamed, and something inside her broke open. Light surged from her skin, brighter than before, blazing silver white. It burst outward, a wave of fire and thunder. The hunters screamed as the blast threw them back, weapons torn from their hands. The ship's lights flickered, sparks bursting from its hull. The girl fell to her knees, shaking. The glow still pulsed across her arms. Her breath came in ragged gasps. I didn't mean to." Daniel crouched beside her. His voice was calm, steady, as if this was exactly what he had been waiting for. "You are waking." Her eyes filled with fear. "I am dangerous. You saw—" "No," he cut her off. "You are powerful. Dangerous is what they call you, so you will believe it. Power is what you truly are." Before she could answer, the ground shook. Another ship landed close by, engines screaming. More hunters rushed out, dozens this time. The night burned with their shouts. Daniel stood again. His voice dropped low, almost to himself. "Then they will see." He pulled a small device from his coat, pressing it once. A sharp hum filled the air, and then his body shifted. Not changed, not transformed, but revealed. For a heartbeat, the girl saw him not as a man but as something more. His shadow stretched longer than it should, his outline glowing faintly with strange patterns like scars written in light. His eyes burned, not human brown, but fierce silver. The hunters hesitated, their steps faltering. Daniel's voice cut through, the night like thunder. "Come then." They charged. Rifles spat fire. Blades cut the air. Daniel moved like a storm. Bullets bent away as if the air itself shielded him. Blades broke against his arms. His fists struck like hammers, sending armored bodies crashing into the dust. The girl could only watch, her fear tangled with awe. He was human, yes, but not only human. Something else lived inside him, something the galaxy had forgotten or feared. Yet even Daniel could not hold them forever. More ships circled above. More hunters poured into the valley. The ground shook with their numbers. Daniel fought on, but his voice reached her through the chaos. "Decide, now." She clutched her glowing hands, trembling. "Decide what?" "To hide," he shouted, striking another hunter to the ground, "or to rise." Her chest burned. Her eyes darted to the endless line of enemies, to the fire in Daniel's fists, to the silver light in her own skin. The choice roared inside her like fire. Behind them, the wasteland stretched endless. Ahead, the hunters closed in. The girl's breath slowed. Her hands steadied. For the first time, she did not feel only fear. She felt strength. She rose to her feet. The light spread through her body, bright and blinding. Daniel looked back at her, and for the first time, he smiled. The valley burned with fire. Ships hovered overhead, their engines screaming like monsters in the night. Hunters shouted as they spread across the rocks, blades and rifles flashing under the moons. The girl stood glowing at the cliff's edge, her silver light burning brighter than all the torches below. Her hands shook, but not from weakness. For the first time, the power inside her no longer begged to hide. It demanded to be free. Daniel fought beside her, coat torn, fists red with dust and blood. His movements were still sharp, but slower. Now, even storms grow tired. Dozens of enemies had already fallen, yet more kept coming. He looked at her through the chaos. His voice cut through the noise like iron. Now, decide! Her breath caught. The light in her chest pulsed with his words. She felt the weight of his demand. The galaxy seemed to lean in, waiting for her answer. I don't know how, she cried. Daniel's eyes burned with fierce fire. It is not how. It is who. Choose who you are. The hunters advanced. Rifles lifted. Blades gleamed. The girl's vision blurred. Memories stabbed into her mind, flashes of a life buried deep. A hall of crystal walls. A throne of light. Her people kneeling. Then fire. Screams. Ships falling. In flame. Her name echoing in the dark. Her hands tightened. The light inside her surged hotter as if it too remembered. I am not ready, she shouted. No one is ready, Daniel growled, blocking a blade with his arm, sending the attacker crashing away. But you are chosen. You are the last. The words struck harder than any weapon. The last. Alone. If she fell here, her people's flame would die forever. Her fear turned sharp. Her breath steadied. She lifted her glowing hands. And the valley trembled. A blast of silver fire roared from her palms, sweeping across the hunters like a storm. Rifles melted. Armor shattered. Screams filled the night as enemies were thrown back, their bodies crashing into the dust. Ships above shuddered as their engines flickered, struggling against the wave of light. Daniel shielded his face, but he smiled through the storm. She was rising. The girl gasped for air, her body shaking from the force. The glow dimmed, but the fire inside her no longer felt like a curse. It felt like a truth. Hunters stumbled back, terrified. Some dropped their weapons and fled into the night. But others, driven by greed, pressed forward again. She is the heir, one shouted. Take her alive. More ships descended. The ground shook. The sky blazed with spotlights. The girl staggered, exhausted from her first strike. I can't do it again. Daniel stepped to her side, his hand steady on her shoulder. You don't need to fight them all. Not yet. There is something greater waiting for you. Her eyes searched his, trembling. What greater? He pointed toward the far end of the valley. Through the smoke, a black structure rose from the sand, half buried. Its walls glowed faintly with runes she didn't understand, but her chest tightened as if her blood remembered them. The temple, Daniel said. It calls to you. That is where your choice will be made. Together they pushed through the chaos. Daniel struck down any who came too close, his movements a blur of strength. The girl followed, her light flickering each time fear threatened to break her stride. The temple loomed larger, its door sealed by stone and glowing lines of silver. No hunter dared approach it. They circled instead, watching with fear, whispering. The girl touched the door. The runes flared to life, burning bright, responding to her touch. The stone split with a deep groan, opening slowly into a chamber filled with light. Daniel's voice was low. Only you can enter. Her eyes widened. What about you? I will hold them here. He glanced at the approaching hunters, his coat torn, his body bleeding. Still, his voice carried iron. Go. This is your moment. Tears stung her eyes. She wanted to argue, to stay, to help. But the fire inside her pulled her forward. She stepped into the temple. Inside, the air was alive. Light swirled around her, silver streams flowing into the center of the chamber where a pedestal rose from the floor. Upon it lay a crystal, glowing brighter than anything she had ever seen. Her hands shook as she approached. Her reflection shimmered in the crystals. Light, her face, but not weak, not broken, strong, endless. A queen's face, her voice was barely a whisper. What am I supposed to do? The crystal pulsed in answer, light flooding the room. Images filled her mind again, her people, her empire, the galaxy before it fell. And then the truth. She could restore it. Or she could destroy everything. The choice was hers. She reached out, her hand trembling inches from the crystal. Outside, Daniel's roar echoed, the clash of battle growing louder. The hunters screamed. Ships thundered, the girl's heart pounded. She felt the weight of her people, her past, her future. Her fingers brushed the crystal. Light exploded. The temple shook, and in the blinding glow, she whispered the words that would change the galaxy forever. Then let them come,